Welcome to the legend that is the Volvo PV544. Legend?
Yes, I'm afraid it's true, and I'm really sorry. After 13 years of making wheeler dealers, I'm now going to be leaving the show.
Why did a lanky bloke with grease-smudged overalls and a grin that could light up a scrapyard become the unlikeliest TV star on this side of gear oil? Picture a world where car shows were all glitz and Hollywood horsepower. Then enrolled Edd China, tool belt jangling, ready to whisper to engines like they were old friends. In the next few minutes, you're going to see how a farm kid's tinkerlust and an engineering brainwave turned into a global phenomenon. How Edd China rewrote the rulebook on automotive TLC, and why millions tuned in to watch him resurrect lemons into legends. But first, how does a soft-spoken giant with a heart full of Haynes manuals go from tinkering in back alleys to becoming the world's most trusted car whisperer? Revving up the legend. How Edd China became the king of car TLC. Picture this. A rust-eaten 60s Porsche shell perched on cinder blocks in a rain-soaked yard, its chrome belly blistered and begging for mercy. In a narrow alley in suburban London, industrial bins are piling sky-high. And there, beneath a flickering sodium lamp, crouches a man talking to pistons like their kin. "Come on, old girl, let's show 'em what you've got," he murmurs, fingertips dancing over corroded valves. That's our scene setter for Edd China, the bloke who treated broken classics like finalists on MasterChef, and always served 'em piping hot. You can almost hear the diesel hiss and smell the hot metal as he coaxed life back into machines everyone else had consigned to scrap. But where did this doctor of the driveway come from? Ed wasn't born with a wrench in his hand. Well, not literally, but the signs were there early. Growing up on a modest farm in rural England, he spent childhood afternoons stripping down push mowers and patching tractors, convinced every stubborn engine just needed the right nudge, or persuasion, to purr. Some insiders say he built his first go-kart from a lawnmower engine at age 12, blasting around muddy fields faster than his mates could keep up. Engineering studies followed, tinkering with hydraulics and chassis dynamics at college. Then, apprenticeships under seasoned mechanics who taught him that the real secret to a lasting fix was thinking 3 steps ahead. Anticipate the next squeak, the next loose bolt, the next uh-oh. By the time he showed up for his first TV audition, he carried not just tools, but a mechanical sixth sense. And then came the big break. In the early 2000s, auto TV was all screaming horsepower and dramatic reveals, until production execs spotted Ed's patient approach and quirky charm. Pairing him with fast-talking car dealer Mike Brewer was like mixing oil with vinegar. Unlikely, but explosive. Brewer hunted the bargains, wheeling and dealing with razor-sharp negotiation tactics, while Ed whispered to crankshafts and coaxed out hidden horsepower. Together, they created the Wheeler Dealer's Blueprint. Buy a beaten-down car, dismantle it piece by piece, build with ingenuity and minimal budget, then flip it for profit, every twist and turn captured on camera. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and viewers ate it up. What set Ed apart wasn't just the grease under his nails, but the doctor persona he cultivated. Imagine a foot-powered brake bleed system, where he rigged a mini pedal from an old satellite dish mount so he could flush brake fluid without a second pair of hands. Think back to when he transformed a pile of scrap into a makeshift welding rig using scrap metal and a car battery. Sparks flying, jury-rigged brilliance at its finest. Or that moment on the side of the road when he built an impromptu fuel pump from plastic tubing and a discarded pump motor, reviving a dying classic with a smile and "Bob's your uncle." These weren't TV stunts. They were genuine kitchen sink creativity that felt like watching MacGyver in coveralls. He treated clapped-out classics like finalists on MasterChef, and always served them up piping hot. Fans still talk about the tiny Fiat 500 he resurrected with nothing but duct tape, optimism, and elbow grease. It wasn't just a wrench in the works, one Redditor joked, it was a magic wand. Another fan tweeted, watched him turn a heap of metal into a family heirloom. Doctors in hospitals have nothing on this guy. These magic wrench miracles weren't just clever hacks. They were emotional payoffs. Proof that with enough know-how, any doomed machine could earn a second life. But every great story needs a twist before the next chapter, and ours comes with a question. If Edd was the engine whisperer who could resurrect anything, what happens when the budget clamp forces your creativity into a straitjacket? Imagine being told you can't source an authentic part because it's too expensive, or watching producers push you to skip the thoughtful fix for a quick-cut montage. Some industry insiders whisper that Edd clashed with execs over preserving authenticity versus chasing flashy drama early on. And if you thought swapping a brake line in real time was suspenseful, just wait until you hear about the salary cap that almost ended his run before it really began. But just when it looked like Edd might walk away for good, the wild card, Mike Brewer, rolled in. Slick, sharp, and louder than a misfiring V8. Their chemistry was lightning in a bottle until the bottle cracked. The Doctor and the Dealer, Mike Brewer versus Edd China's mechanical mastery. If Edd was the heart of wheeler dealers, Mike Brewer was the mouth. One whispered to engines, and the other shouted at budgets. And for 13 seasons, that clash of styles didn't just make magic, it made television history. But here's what no one tells you. This partnership was always one spark away from combustion. So how did a used car salesman with a gift for gab and a quiet mechanical genius become one of TV's most electric duos? And why did millions of us tune in just to watch them drive each other crazy? Mike Brewer didn't just negotiate cars, he weaponized charm. Watch any episode and see the Brewer playbook in action. The pause, the squint, the I love it, but my accountant will kill me sigh. And then, bam! He'd knock 30% off the asking price before the seller even processed what happened. And here's a juicy little stat for you. During the show's heyday, over 80% of featured cars ended up flipping for a profit. Not because they were all winners, but because Brewer's negotiation chops squeezed deals so tight, even rust buckets had resale value. That's not luck. That's leverage on wheels. This wasn't just salesmanship, it was performance art. And the numbers prove it. By season 10, Brewer's haggling had saved the show £1.2 million in pretend budgets. Money Edd could then accidentally blow on titanium exhausts and racing clutches. But here's what's wild. Mike's gift for the deal wasn't just about saving cash. It was about creating drama. Every lowball offer set up Edd's next impossible challenge. Make this heap glorious for peanuts. And we ate it up. Let's talk about the fights. Because, oh boy, were there fights. Like the time Mike bought a rust-free Land Rover that literally crumbled under Edd's jack. Or when Edd demanded a 900-pound gearbox, and Mike stormed off set, muttering about money trees. These weren't scripted spats. This was real, raw friction. The mechanic versus the money man. And fans couldn't get enough. Insiders say the tension peaked during the '72 Mini Cooper build. Mike wanted it done for under 500 pounds. Edd needed 1,200 pounds just for parts. What followed? A 45-minute off that producers called the Mini Cold War. And here's the kicker. That episode became the most rewatched in season 9. Why? Because we all love watching someone fight for what they believe in, especially when that person is a 6 foot and 5 inches mechanic glaring at a cheeky car salesman. Here's the genius of their partnership. Their clashes weren't a bug. They were the feature. Edd's calm, methodical genius made the work believable. Mike's chaos made it watchable. Together, they cracked the code of DIY TV. Equal parts education and entertainment. Want proof? Look at the numbers. Wheeler Dealers didn't just outperform other car shows, it tripled Discovery's expected audience in the 18 to 34 demo. Why? It gave us 2 heroes to root for, the underdog mechanic and the lovable rogue. But the real magic was in the unspoken trust. Mike might gripe about costs, but he always greenlit Edd's wildest ideas. And Edd? He turned Mike's questionable purchases into automotive miracles. It was a dance, 1-step bickering, 2-step brilliance until the music stopped. By 2016, whispers started. New producers, tighter budgets, fewer impossible builds. Longtime viewers noticed first. Where were the audacious engine swaps, the custom fabrications? Then came the rumor that made forums explode. Discovery wanted more American-friendly episodes. Translation: faster, flashier, less Edd tinkering for hours. Some say Mike fought it. Others claim he adapted. But one thing's certain, the show's soul was shifting. And Edd? He wasn't built to bend. In the end, they gave us 13 years of gasoline-soaked glory. Mike taught us how to wheel. Edd taught us how to deal. And together, they proved that the best television isn't about perfect harmony. It's about the sparks that fly when opposites collide. So the next time you see a beat-up classic on Craigslist, ask yourself, what would Mike pay? And more importantly, could you pull off an Edd? And just when fans thought things were running smoothly, bam! The torque wrench slipped. Because behind the grins and gearboxes, tension had been building. And in 2017, it finally snapped. The viral wrench incident, when Edd China walked away, December 2017. One email. That's all it took to send this wrench. And Wheeler Dealer's soul plummeting to the concrete. Was it really just about money? Or did Discovery forget the first rule of car shows? You don't put bean counters in charge of gearheads. Strap in. This is the story of how corporate calculus met cult fandom and lost. Let's rewind to December 12, 2017. Picture this. Discovery's execs hit send on an email that might as well have been a grenade. The memo: slash talent budgets by 30%, or walk. No negotiations, no farewell cake, just a corporate ultimatum wrapped in spreadsheet logic. And Edd? Well, he didn't even blink. Insiders say he fired back in under an hour, "I build cars properly or not at all." 6 words. That's all it took to fracture a decade-long partnership. But here's what they didn't tell you. The Guardian dug deeper. This wasn't just about money. Discovery wanted fast flips, cheap, US-friendly builds, fewer of Edd's painstaking engine swaps, more profit-friendly quickies. Imagine asking Da Vinci to paint by numbers. Worse, they reportedly slashed parts budgets too. Edd's legendary 900-pound gearbox fixes? Now deemed excessive. Fans smelled blood instantly. Reddit threads exploded. They're turning WD into an infomercial. And here's the kicker. That email wasn't private. Leaked faster than a Ford Pinto's recall notice. Within hours, Discovery dumbasses trended. Fans dissected every line. One phrase stuck out: streamlined workflows, code for dumbing down. Even Mike Brewer's cheeky charm couldn't sugarcoat this. A producer later admitted, "We thought fans wanted drama. Turns out they wanted Edd." Oops. So why did Edd walk? Discovery called it creative differences. But The Guardian got the real scoop. Edd wasn't just refusing a pay cut. He was rejecting an entire format shift. Fewer custom fabrications, more quick flips for the US market. Basically, less Edd, more profit. But what happens when you replace craftsmanship with corporate calculus? Chaos. Beautiful, unhinged chaos. Within 72 hours, fans turned Twitter into a digital picket line. Memes? Oh, they weaponized them. Edd's face photoshopped onto Obi-Wan. "You were the chosen one." A petition demanding his return? 112,000 signatures faster than a Ferrari hits 60. And poor Mike Brewer? His "good luck, mate" tweet drowned in a tsunami of traitor replies. But here's the kicker. Motor Trend clocked a 22% ratings nosedive the day Edd's exit went public. It turns out that you can't algorithm your way out of a fan revolt. This wasn't anger. This was grief. Edd wasn't just a host. He was the antidote to reality TV's scripted nonsense. No fake meltdowns. No producer-engineered drama. Just a 6 feet and 5 inches wizard making carburetors sexy. And Discovery? They treated him like office supplies. But fans weren't having it. Reddit threads dissected every leaked email. Forums lit up with conspiracy theories. They're forcing him out for an influencer. Even auto journalists piled on. One Motor Trend op-ed put it bluntly. Losing Edd was like stripping the engine out of your own show. Ouch! And here's what Discovery still doesn't get. Edd's magic wasn't in the screen time. It was in the silence. Those long, unedited shots of him thinking. The way he'd mutter to a crankshaft like it was an old friend. You didn't watch Edd China. You learned from him. So when fans saw that final shot of him polishing a carburetor while Mike yammered off camera, they didn't just lose a TV mechanic. They lost a mentor. The lesson? You can't manufacture loyalty. Those 112K signatures, that 740% hashtag spike, that's not metrics. That's love. And love doesn't fit in a spreadsheet. But while Twitter raged and petitions soared, Discovery made its next move. And trust me, it wasn't an apology. Let's be honest. When Edd China walked, the show didn't limp. It skidded into a ditch. And what followed wasn't just a format tweak or a rough patch. It was a full-blown identity crisis. This is where wheeler-dealers stopped being wheeler-dealers and started trying to be something else entirely. Something shinier, faster, cheaper. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Season 15 rolled out like a flashy new model you want to love. But the engine just didn't turn over. New mechanic Ant Anstead stepped in. And to be fair, he wasn't the problem. Talented guy, charismatic. Actually, he knows his stuff. But he wasn't Edd. And more importantly, he wasn't what fans had signed up for. The soul of the show wasn't just about what got fixed. It was how it got fixed. Every stripped bolt, every silent pause before a wrench turn, those moments mattered. Edd made you feel like you could walk into your own garage and rebuild a gearbox with nothing but a spanner and a cup of tea. Ant? He felt more packaged, edited, quick cut, reality TV with a socket set. Now, you could see Discovery trying to fix the bleeding with flashier graphics, tighter edits, and even that baffling decision to toss in a studio audience. Because nothing says authentic restoration like canned applause. Fans called it Wheeler Fakers, and yeah, it stung. But they weren't wrong. The format was cracking under the weight of its own make-believe, and the numbers were brutal. Season 14 averaged around 4.1 million viewers. Season 15 dipped to 2.7 million. That's not a slow fade. Motor Trend tried to spin it as a new era, but viewers could tell that this wasn't a reboot. It was a downgrade. And somewhere deep in the analytics basement at Discovery HQ, a red light must have started blinking. Because here's what became glaringly obvious. The formula they thought they owned? It wasn't theirs. It was Edd's. The silence, the focus, the meditative way he disassembled a carburetor like it was a sacred ritual. That wasn't filler. That was the show. You can't just replace that with a voiceover and a B-roll montage. The problem wasn't the tools or the cars, but the philosophy. Edd made every restoration feel personal. Discovery made it feel branded. And let's not forget the fans. They didn't just tune out, they fought back. Reddit became a virtual war room. Posts with titles like "Bring Back the Doctor" and "WD is dead without Edd" flooded the boards. One comment even nailed it perfectly. It's like firing Attenborough from planet Earth to save on voiceover costs. That one went viral. The fan base had morphed into an army, and they weren't afraid to meme bomb the entire network. But it wasn't just online outrage. It was emotional whiplash. Because let's be real, for a lot of viewers, Edd wasn't just a mechanic. He was a mentor. A calm, reassuring presence in a world full of fake drama and high-speed editing. He taught you why things worked, not just that they did. And when he left, it wasn't just a casting change, it was a betrayal. Even Mike Brewer, bless him, looked visibly uncomfortable during those early post-Edd episodes. You could see it in his eyes, that forced smile, the sudden uptick in car salesman energy. It was like watching someone try to host a dinner party after their best friend bailed at the last minute. The chemistry was gone, and everyone knew it. What makes this even messier is that Discovery genuinely seemed caught off guard. It is as if slashing budgets and pivoting toward a more American version of the show wouldn't set off a fan revolt. It's the kind of miscalculation you expect from a spreadsheet, not a media company. And yet, here we are. A network blindsided by the idea that audiences actually care about authenticity. Because that's the thing, right? You can't manufacture loyalty. You can't fast-track trust. What Edd built over 13 seasons wasn't just good TV, it was a relationship. And fans? They felt it. They noticed when the edits got tighter, when the fixes got faster, and when the builds felt less like passion projects and more like deadlines. So when Season 15 hit the airwaves, it wasn't greeted with curiosity. It was met with suspicion. Fans were watching, not to enjoy it, but to see what had been ruined. That's not engagement, that's mourning. And Discovery? They never really recovered from that. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about a TV show, it's about trust. Edd China stood for something that felt increasingly rare in automotive media: patience, precision, and the idea that you didn't need drama to be compelling. Just skill, just heart. And when he left, the heart went with him. What Discovery learned, too late, is that you can't budget cut magic. You can't replace ethos with efficiency. And you definitely can't throw a live audience at a loyal fan base and hope they won't notice the silence is gone. The cameras kept rolling, but the magic? That stalled at the exit. Because while Discovery tried to swap out parts and keep the engine humming, fans were already chasing Edd down the solo lane. What came next? Let's just say the spin-off wasn't the quiet retirement you'd expect from a gentleman mechanic. After the spin-off, Edd's solo revs and wheeler dealers' new direction. You can take the doctor off the show, but you can't take the show out of the doctor. We all know it. Edd China wasn't just a mechanic on Wheeler Dealers. He was the heartbeat. That calming, almost zen-like presence, mixed with his expert know-how, made him an icon in the world of car restoration. But in 2017, he made an exit that no one saw coming. And let's be real, no one's been able to fill those steel-toed boots since. So, what happened after the wrench dropped? And how did Wheeler Dealers try to keep the engine running without their main man? Was the show cruising along, or did it hit the brakes? Let's dive in. When Edd China left Wheeler Dealers, many thought we'd lost him for good. But if there's one thing Edd's never been good at, it's staying out of the spotlight. After his departure, he shifted gears, literally and figuratively, launching his own YouTube channel and rekindling that flame for hands-on restoration. His passion for restoring cars was still burning bright, but this time, it was on his terms. One of the fans' favorites on his channel was Project Lundy, where Edd took on an ambitious restoration of a classic vehicle with a quirky history. It wasn't just about fixing cars, but about telling a story. A big part of Edd's appeal is his ability to transform the mechanical into the personal. Each project felt like a deep dive into the soul of the car, complete with the quirky quirks only a true car lover can appreciate. And then, there was the Leyland P76 revival. This one hit differently. It's not just another restoration project. It's a nod to a car that's been maligned in automotive history. The P76 has its fair share of controversy. Some call it a failure, others a misunderstood gem. But Edd's restoration didn't just shine a light on its potential, it told the story of why it mattered. And that's the Edd China difference, right? He doesn't just restore cars, he revives their narratives. Both of these projects racked up millions of views, proving that Edd wasn't just a beloved TV star. He was a genuine automotive force. His channel became a home for fans of classic car restoration, and they came in droves. So, if you thought Edd would just fade into obscurity, think again. His YouTube channel became a place where fans could see the magic happen in real time, with Edd doing what he does best, turning wrenches, sharing stories, and giving us a behind-the-scenes look at his very own workshop. So, with Edd stepping off stage, who did Wheeler Dealers call in to keep the wheels turning? First, Ant Anstead, a British car builder, designer, and TV personality who'd made a name for himself on shows like For the Love of Cars. Ant was brought in to bring his own flair to the show, and he definitely delivered. He's known for his expertise in building custom chassis and restoring cars with a more artistic approach. His design sensibility added a whole new layer to the Wheeler Dealers formula. His style? Smooth as always. Elegant. It's a bit more polished than Edd's classic gritty approach, though. But after a few seasons, Ant stepped down. And that's where Mark Priestley came in. You might know Mark from his F1 days. He worked on McLaren's Formula One team, so he's no stranger to high-performance engines. The shift from Ant's chassis-heavy focus to Mark's engine-centric style brought a different vibe to the show. Mark's specialty was performance, tuning, swapping, and pushing the limits of what a car could do. He was about power, speed, and precision. This is where Wheeler Dealers really started to evolve. But it wasn't just about engine swaps. It was about the technical wizardry that made the show feel like more than just a DIY restoration program. It was a place for viewers to really learn, but also to be entertained by the sheer complexity of car engineering. But as much as these guys brought new energy, let's face it, Wheeler Dealers without Edd was always going to feel like a jigsaw puzzle with one piece missing. And it's not like the hosts were bad. They weren't. But they weren't Edd. You could almost hear the fans, right? Sure, Ant's okay, but where's Edd's calm demeanor when things go wrong? Or, Mark's a whiz with engines, but I kinda miss Edd's knack for making things look so simple. Let's get to the juicy bit. What did the fans think? Wheeler Dealers was a cult hit, and the fan base was fiercely loyal, no doubt about it. So when Edd left, the reaction was, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly applause. In fact, Reddit was flooded with comments about the shift, with many fans noting that while the new hosts were competent, they simply weren't Edd. A Reddit poll even showed a dip in satisfaction ratings after Edd's departure. The real punchline? Even though Ant and Mark brought their skills to the show, the magic of Edd's mechanics and the connection he had with the fans was just gone. In fact, some polls showed that a whopping 60% of fans admitted they weren't as invested in the show after Edd left. That's a big hit. But it wasn't just about the fans missing a person, it was about the whole vibe changing. Edd wasn't just a mechanic. He was the show's heart. You could sense that, even with talented new hosts, the show was struggling to capture the same spark. Sure, they still had solid episodes, but without Edd's charm and mechanical prowess, some felt like the show was only going through the motions. But here's the thing. There's a rumor that refuses to die. A Wheeler Dealers reunion. No, not just any reunion, but the reunion. The magic combo of Edd China and Mike Brewer. Now, some insiders say the door isn't entirely closed. Sure, Edd found success with his YouTube channel, and Mike did his thing, but the bond between these two is undeniable. Fans are still asking the big question. Could we ever see them together again? Working on a car, riffing off each other's energy, maybe even for a special episode. Some fans speculate that Mike and Edd could have the final say in their partnership. And maybe, just maybe, there's room for a reunion. Who wouldn't want to see that, right? But legends don't fade. They evolve. And while the reunion rumor brews in the background, Edd was already busy forging a legacy that didn't need a TV time slot. What did he build next? It wasn't just content. It was a community. And it proved the man wasn't done turning wrenches or heads. In the world of turbocharged egos and showroom glitz, Edd China was the outlier, the calm in the chaos. And now, years after that fateful split from Wheeler Dealers, his shadow still stretches across the car world like a spanner left on a dashboard. Impossible to ignore, and frankly, kind of comforting. Because here's the thing. Edd built a movement, a quietly defiant rebellion in favor of getting your hands dirty, understanding your machine, and refusing to toss something just because it creaks a little. And that's the part TV execs never fully got. Sure, Wheeler Dealers kept rolling without him, but something vital was lost in the shuffle. You felt it. Fans felt it. The IMDb ratings certainly felt it, with Series 14 Edd's swan song clinging to a high 8.5, while the Anstead era tumbled into the mid-70s. And yet, Edd didn't vanish into some greased-up sunset. No, he went digital, and fans rallied him behind. Tribute builds popped up everywhere, from Reddit threads to real-life garages. Even a fan-led charity auction featuring classic car merch signed by Edd himself, because what better way to raise money than through the guy who made your dad believe he could fix that Triumph once and for all. This isn't nostalgia, it's legacy. A living, breathing ripple through car culture. You don't need $1 million shop or a film crew, just a good socket set and someone who once made you believe fixing the unfixable was possible. So, if this story stirred something in you, maybe it's time. Drop your favorite Edd fix in the comments, or your wildest restoration tale. Remember always to stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.